There is a quiet, unspoken way we sometimes give up pieces of ourselves. Little by little, moment by moment, we negotiate who we are to fit the mold others have created for us, or to meet standards we think we must uphold. We shrink, we adjust, we bend, but here's the truth: you are already enough. You do not need to negotiate who you are. You are enough just as you are. Let that thought settle into your heart, because it's the truth that so many of us forget too easily. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to be more successful, more polished, more perfect in every way. But the truth is that your worth doesn't come from meeting someone else's expectations. It comes from simply being you. You are enough in your imperfections, in your flaws, and in the fullness of your humanity. We often try to fit ourselves into molds that were never meant for us, hoping that if we change enough, we'll be accepted, loved, and validated. But as the great Maya Angelou once said, you alone are enough. You have nothing to prove to anybody. The moment you stop negotiating who you are to meet someone else's idea of who you should be, you unlock the power of living authentically. And that power is what will change your life. There is immense strength in being vulnerable. We're often taught that vulnerability is a weakness, something to hide or protect at all costs. But as Brené Brown teaches us, vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. When you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you let the world see you not the version you think people want to see, but the real, unguarded you. That is where true connection, true growth, and true strength reside. It's easy to compare ourselves to others, to feel like we're falling short or that we're not measuring up. But remember, as Dr. Seuss wisely said, today you are you, that is truer than true. There is no one alive who is youer than you. There is no one else who can be you. You are a unique combination of your experiences, your dreams, your strengths, and your struggles. No one can replicate that, and no one should. The world needs what only you can offer: your voice, your perspective, your energy. When you stop negotiating who you are, you stop seeking approval from outside sources. You realize that your worth is intrinsic, not dependent on the validation of others. The moment you embrace your authentic self, you stop living for others and start living for yourself. Don't wait until everything is just right. It will never be perfect, said Mark Victor Hansen. There will always be challenges, obstacles, and less than perfect conditions. So what? Get started now. With each step you take, you will grow stronger and stronger, more and more skilled, more and more self-confident, and more successful. You are enough, just as you are. When you begin to live from this place of inner knowing, you become unstoppable. You don't need to negotiate who you are anymore. You get to stand tall in the fullness of who you are, and that is more than enough. Don't let the world make you feel small. The truth is, you are made for greatness. You are worthy of all that life has to offer, just as you are. Own your story, embrace your uniqueness, and step forward with the confidence that you are enough, because you always have been. There is a profound power in vulnerability. It's often seen as a weakness, something to be avoided, hidden, or shielded at all costs. But vulnerability is not about being fragile or exposed. It's about having the courage to show up as your true self, even when it feels uncertain, even when the outcome is unknown. As Brené Brown, one of the greatest advocates for vulnerability, wisely said, vulnerability is not winning or losing, it's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. In a world that tells us to be strong, to be tough, to have all the answers, vulnerability is a radical act of courage. It's about allowing ourselves to be seen for who we truly are, not the perfect version we think others want us to be. Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change, Brown also reminds us. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to endless possibilities. We free ourselves from the need for perfection and embrace the power of authenticity. But it's not easy, is it? We're conditioned to fear judgment, rejection, and failure. We think that if we let our guard down, we will be exposed, vulnerable to the harsh opinions of the world. But the truth is, when we hide behind our walls, we're not protecting ourselves, we're imprisoning ourselves. The very thing we fear the most is often the thing we need the most: the freedom to be who we are without apology. As the late Marianne Williamson so powerfully said, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We fear our own power. And so we hide, we play small, we resist vulnerability. But in doing so, we rob ourselves of our greatest potential. Vulnerability is not about weakness, it's the path to strength. It's the courage to be seen in our full humanity, flaws and all, and still choose to show up, to keep moving forward, to keep growing. When we embrace vulnerability, we begin to unlock parts of ourselves we never knew existed. We allow ourselves to dream bigger, to love deeper, and to take risks we once thought impossible. As the poet Rainer Maria Rilke wrote, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." Vulnerability means allowing yourself to feel, to experience life in its full range, both the joy and the pain, the triumph and the failure, and knowing that none of it defines you. It's all part of the beautiful, messy journey that is your life. It's time to stop hiding. It's time to stop pretending we have it all together. There is no such thing as perfect, said Dr. Henry Cloud. There is only real. Real is raw. Real is messy. Real is authentic. And when we allow ourselves to show up as real, unfiltered versions of ourselves, we give others permission to do the same. We create a world where vulnerability is not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated, because it is in vulnerability that we find connection, empathy, and the courage to keep moving forward. So today, take a step toward embracing your own vulnerability. Let go of the fear of judgment, the need for perfection, and the pressure to always have it all figured out. Be real. Be seen. And watch as your life begins to unfold in ways you never thought possible. Because when we embrace vulnerability, we don't just change ourselves, we change the world. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to move forward despite it. We often think of courage as a bold, fearless act, something that only heroes or the exceptionally brave possess. But in truth, courage is a daily choice, a decision to step into discomfort and uncertainty, even when the world tells us to stay safe, to stay small. As the legendary Nelson Mandela once said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Every time we step out of our comfort zone, we practice courage. Every time we face a challenge or a failure or the unknown with determination, we choose courage. It's not about being fearless. It's about acknowledging the fear, feeling it, and still moving forward. The great Theodore Roosevelt once reminded us, "It is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed." Courage is not about avoiding failure, it's about taking that first step, even when the outcome is uncertain. Too often, we let our fears hold us back. We fear rejection, failure, judgment, the unknown. We look at the road ahead and see obstacles instead of opportunities. But what if we reframed fear as a guide, not a barrier? What if we stopped seeing it as a sign to retreat and started seeing it as a sign to advance? As one of the most courageous writers of our time, Mark Twain once said, "Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear." Fear is a part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to control us. It's simply a signal that we are pushing towards something new, something that's going to make us grow. Courage is not something reserved for the exceptional few, it's in all of us, waiting to be tapped into. It's that quiet voice inside that whispers, "You are capable. You are strong, you can do this," but we have to listen to it. We have to trust it. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face, said Eleanor Roosevelt. The more we face our fears head on, the stronger we become. The more we step into discomfort, the more we realize that it's not as frightening as it first seemed. True courage is not a one-time act, it's a lifestyle. It's in the small moments, the decisions we make every day to keep moving forward, even when the path is unclear. As Mary Ann Radmacher wisely said, courage does not always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, "I will try again tomorrow." It's about resilience, about getting up when we've fallen, about daring to keep going, even when the odds seem stacked against us. So today I challenge you to embrace your courage. Step into the unknown. Trust that the fear you feel is a sign of growth, not something to be avoided. Take that step, even if it's small, toward the life you've always wanted to create. Because courage doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It creates the perfect moment. And you are capable of greatness if only you choose to have the courage to step into it. You are not defined by the opinions of others. This is a truth that many of us forget. We live in a world that constantly tries to shape us into something we are not, a world where approval from others often feels like the measure of our worth. But the moment we realize that our value is not contingent on anyone else's validation, we begin to unlock our true power. As the great Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." Too often, we look outside ourselves for confirmation, seeking approval in likes, comments, or the opinions of those around us. We give our power away by believing that our worth is based on how others perceive us. But the reality is that you are already enough just as you are. Your worth is intrinsic, built into the very core of who you are. As the poet Rainer Maria Rilke said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." You carry everything within you, the strength, the beauty, the potential. You are not defined by what others think of you, but by who you are at your deepest level. The quest for external validation can be exhausting. It's like chasing a moving target. No matter how much we achieve or how much we prove ourselves to others, the approval we seek is fleeting. The moment we base our worth on the opinions of others, we give them the power to control our emotions, our decisions, and our lives. But as Dr. Wayne Dyer wisely put it, self-worth comes from one thing: thinking that you are worthy. Your worth doesn't come from what others think of you or how they judge you. It comes from your belief in your own value. In a world where comparison runs rampant, it's so easy to fall into the trap of measuring ourselves against someone else's standards. We see others achieving success, getting praise, and we feel like we don't measure up. But here's the truth: don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle, as John Acuff said. Everyone is on their own journey, and the only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. When you stop seeking validation from others, you free yourself to follow your own path. You stop making decisions based on what others will think and start making them based on what aligns with your values, your dreams, and your purpose. As Steve Jobs famously said, "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life. And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do." When you stop looking for validation, you open the door to doing work that truly matters to you, work that is aligned with your purpose, and work that brings you peace and fulfillment. It's time to stop measuring your worth based on others' opinions. Your value is not something anyone else can give you or take away from you. It is yours, always independent of anything outside of you. Remember this: you are worthy of love and respect, just as you are, as the great Thich Nhat Hanh said. Stop waiting for others to affirm your worth. Start affirming it yourself. When you do, you'll find that you no longer need to seek validation from the world. You'll be living a life that is true to who you are, and in that you will find all the fulfillment you need.